Hey, what's going on? My name is Andy Monroe, the co-founder of Bullish Events, and I wanted to record you guys a quick video to show you a trend that we're seeing in the live events industry, as well as the coaching, consulting, community, info business industry as a whole. Now, before I dive in, like I said, I'm the co-founder of Bullish Events. At Bullish Events, we help high-ticket coaching and consulting businesses scale to 7 and 8 figures with live events. We've been able to generate over $10 million in revenue through live events, and I believe at this point we've had around 6,500 attendees come through our in-person experience. So there's a little bit of context as to who we are, but now that that's out of the way, let's just jump right into it. So the coaching industry is changing. Information is not as valuable as it once was, and I believe that's for two reasons. The first is just industry saturation. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of noise, a lot of people making content. There's a ton of videos on YouTube that you can pretty much solve any problem that you'll ever encounter inside of your business. You have people like Alex Hormozy who just gives everything away for free, so you can kind of get all of your business training from one source, and information just isn't that valuable anymore. And the other reason for this is AI. I know AI is not quite there where everything is, super dialed and accurate. There's still some hallucinations, some problems there. But imagine what it's going to be like in like a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Even right now, you can go on to ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or whatever your preferred AI platform is and find answers to a lot of your questions and gain a lot of insights, and just like look into any rabbit hole you want. You can discover any information you want. Like I said, it's not perfect yet, but it's just going to keep getting better. And for these two reasons, information just isn't as valuable as it once was, and people aren't really looking just to buy courses. Like courses are valuable. I'm not saying that they're not valuable, and I'm also not saying they don't work. This is not a video saying that you should like stop selling courses and that courses don't work. I just believe from what I'm seeing, courses are not as popular as they once were. And I think that people are looking for implementation and transformation over information. And yes, this applies to the coaching, consulting, community, info business industry, but this also applies to events. So we at Bullish Events are shifting our event strategy to focus on implementation, getting real results for attendees at the events themselves, and not just giving them a bunch of information they have to go and apply to their lives and their businesses once the event is over. And this works for fulfillment events, acquisition events, and mastermind events. If you aren't familiar with these event models, I have a ton of videos on this channel that dives into fulfillment events, acquisition events, and mastermind events. These are just different event models that kind of serve different purposes within a coaching consulting business. That being said, implementation over information works for both fulfillment events, acquisition events, and mastermind events. So how exactly are we doing this? How are we shifting our event strategy to focus more on implementation instead of information? Well, the first strategy that we're using is to simplify the event objective. So instead of having one very broad general topic that we're talking about at the event that has a bunch of different rabbit holes, we just focus on 1 to 3 core problems that the attendees are experiencing in the room. So we're focusing on the attendees in the room and 1 to 3 core problems that they are experiencing. So an example of this is instead of doing a conference or an event just on real estate, there's a ton of real estate summits, how to make money with real estate, how to make passive income with real estate. There's a ton of events that are focused on real estate. Instead of just having a general real estate event, we would recommend, if we were doing the event, we would pick one problem that people in real estate are experiencing, and we would focus the event on that. So instead of just, real estate conference 2025, it would be, how to raise capital for your real estate deals in 2025, or how to find better deals, how to find better real estate deals in 2025. Whatever it is, we would focus on 1 to 3 core problems that the attendees are experiencing, whether it's capital raising, finding deals, how to actually close on deals, how to find investors, whatever it is. We would focus the event on very specific problems that we can solve, instead of just having a very general, broad event where we talk about a lot of surface level stuff that doesn't really solve any real problems. Instead of doing that, we would focus on 1 to 3 core problems. So that's the first strategy that we're deploying. Up next is actually less speakers. Now, this one's painful. This one is hard for a lot of people to grasp. It was hard for us to grasp at first, but we don't really do the 10, 15, 20 speaker event style anymore. I know this has been popular for so long, the seminar model or the funnel hacking live model. Just getting a bunch of speakers in the room and having each one talk about their specialty, whatever they're an expert in. that was great for a long time, and it still works. Like some people can still do this for sure, but I'm looking at where the puck is headed, and I think the puck is headed towards less speakers. So, and this kind of builds on just focusing on 1 to 3 core problems. When you have 5, 10, 15 speakers, they're all going to be solving kind of different problems for the audience and the attendees, and it gets a little confusing. And it's very information focused, very information heavy, and not implementation heavy. So, what we're doing with our events is we're actually reducing the amount of speakers and making sure that they all fall under the 1 to 3 core problems that we are solving for the attendees. So going back to the real estate example, if you're doing a conference on capital raising for real estate in 2025, I would recommend finding speakers that can assist with solving that problem for the attendees. And maybe they are all like, they're still specialized in different topics. Like maybe you find a speaker that's really good at raising money from high net worths, and someone who's really good at cold calling, and someone that's really good at raising money from institutional level investors. Whatever it is, you still want speakers to come and support you, because you can't talk about everything. I'm sure there's a few aspects of these problems, the 1 to 3 core problems, that someone else would be better to speak about. So you can still incorporate those speakers into your event. But what we're doing, at least, is we're not assembling 10, 15, 20 speakers. We're doing like 2, 3, 4, 5 speakers, and making sure that they all align with the 1 to 3 core problems that we're solving at our event. So number 1, simplify the event objective, focus on 1 to 3 core problems. Number 2 is less speakers. And then that leads me to number 3, which is less content. At our events right now, we are doing less content. That means less presentations, less keynotes, less information, and we're incorporating more implementation, more interactive activities, and more needle moving activities into the event itinerary. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. There's a few more points up here that kind of build and compound on top of that. So that's number 3, less content. Number 4 is activities focused on moving the needle for the attendees. So what we're doing for a lot of our events is, if there's any type of information that's being presented, if there's any keynote presentation, if there's any information at all that is being communicated to the attendees from the stage, we will follow it up with some sort of implementation exercise. So that could be as simple as getting into groups with the people, and maybe it's at their table, or going and finding other people in the room and getting into small groups and discussing how they're actually going to implement the information they just learned into their businesses and their lives. That's a very simple version. You can get very in the weeds with different activities on how to how to focus on implementation and focus on moving the needle. But the point is, we're reducing the amount of content that is existing in our events, and we're incorporating way more activities that are focused on actually moving the needle for the attendees. So if I were to recommend what you do, I don't, this is what we do. I'm not saying that it's the right thing, but I really believe this is where the puck is headed. What I would recommend is, when you look at the 1 to 3 core problems you are trying to solve for your attendees, make sure you have activities that run in tandem, that work with these 1 to 3 core problems, and activities that actually help them solve these core problems. So if someone learns about something, if you have 1 to 3 core problems you're solving at your event, and you have speakers that are talking about these core problems, that's great. The information is great, but that really only just generates ideas. That doesn't actually solve the problems for the attendees. So what I would do is, if you have a presentation or some sort of information that's being presented, make sure you follow it up with an implementation exercise. And I might make another video where I dive deeper into some other implementation exercises you can do, and kind of dive deeper into this point. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to move on to point number 5, which is facilitated networking. So events are really great for learning. They're really great for solving problems and making progress in your business, but they're also amazing for meeting people. And that is arguably just as important as learning and moving the needle in your business. Like, meeting people and building out your network is extremely valuable and important. And that's why we're big believers in in-person events. One thing that we're doing less of now is just like general broad networking. And this isn't perfect. I know I just made this mistake at an event we did last week. We found ourselves doing a lot of general broad networking events, and we realized that this was still putting a lot of the pressure on the attendees to actually go and build relationships and meet people and shake hands and find partners. So what we like to do for our events is we actually like to facilitate networking and give them direction and kind of do the heavy lifting for them. So put them in groups, make them meet each other. If going back to the real estate example, if there's people in, maybe there's at your event, you have people that are in single family, multifamily, helping the multifamily people meet each other and helping the single family people meet each other, and actually facilitating those connections and those relationships. Just giving them a place to go and meet each other, like doing some sort of happy hour or some sort of broad networking, that still still puts the heavy lifting on the attendee. They're the ones that have to go, and they have to go, cold approach people, and they have to go meet people, and they have to go, start conversations, which to extroverts, that's really easy, but to introverts, that's super hard. So you just want to make sure that you just eliminate that heavy lift, that burden from your attendees, and do more facilitated networking. And that will help them solve problems in their business and their lives. That's like one of the most valuable aspects of events is the community and the people you meet in the room. And they will definitely help your attendees solve these 1 to 3 core problems in their business, along with so many more. All right, so that's number 5. Number 6 is something that we call laser coaching. And this is actually a really, really cool strategy you can use for your events. And it's actually pretty easy. It's easier on you as the event host to do, which we love that. We love to, reduce the amount of time it takes to create these events because, we're all entrepreneurs, we're busy, we have a lot of stuff to do. So laser coaching works like this. Let's say you have a room of 50 attendees. What you would do is you would invite an attendee up onto the stage or up in front of the room, whatever your event setup is, and you would just work through certain bottlenecks and problems in their business with them live on the spot. So I'm just going to roll with the real estate example. Let's say that your event is about capital raising for real estate. What you would do is you would bring somebody up in front of the room and you would start to walk them through their capital raising strategy. You'd be like, okay, how's capital raising going for you? How much have you been able to raise? What's your biggest bottleneck? What are you struggling with? What's working? What's not working? And you would just work through their business in real time, and you'll find bottlenecks. You'll find where there's a constraint and what is holding them back, and you can help them relieve that in real time. But the coolest part is, most of the time, the attendees that get up in front of the room are experiencing the same problems as most of the other attendees in the room that aren't up there. So if you work through one person's problems in real time, that's going to help other people in the room also solve their problems. Because somebody, maybe the problem is, I'm having a hard time getting in front of investors. I'm sure 10, 15, 20 other people in the room are also having trouble getting in front of investors. Or maybe the problem is I'm having a hard time pitching people. Like I can get in the room, but I can't close the room. That's where I'm struggling. I bet there's 10 or 15 other people that are having a hard time closing the room as well. So when you get people up in front of the room and you just start solving their problems in real time, it's going to be very beneficial for the person that you're solving the problems for. And it's also going to be very beneficial for the other attendees in the room. So that's laser coaching, incredibly valuable. It's also very easy for you as the host to accomplish. Now, moving on to number 7, the last point for this video is in-depth Q&A sessions. Now, this is kind of similar to laser coaching, and it's also pretty easy for you as the event host, but it's incredibly valuable for the attendees. So what you do, I'm just going to keep rolling with the real estate example. Let's say you're doing the event and you're helping people raise capital to close on real estate deals. What you would do is you would get in front of the room. You can have a whiteboard. You can have your screen connected to a projector. You can have a notepad, whatever it is. You want something to write on or to type on. And you would pick a specific topic. So maybe it's getting in the room with investors. Maybe it's meeting investors. Maybe it's an elevator pitch. Maybe it's closing. Maybe it's pitching. Maybe it's pitch decks. Whatever it is, you want to pick a specific problem, a specific thing that you're going to solve. And then you just extract questions from the audience. So let's just say that that you're going to be focusing on getting in the room with investors. What you would do is you'd get up in front of the room and you'd be like, okay, we're going to be talking about getting in the room with investors. What questions and bottlenecks do you guys have about getting in the room with investors? And you just extract all of the questions from the room. People are probably going to have a ton of questions. So you extract all those questions. You're writing it down one by one as they are talking about it. And then you just answer them. You just go down the list. Okay. Someone said, how do I find investors in my area? How do I go if I'm getting into real estate and I don't know anybody? How do I find investors in my area? Boom, you start to answer that question. You solve it, you check it off, then you just go down the list and you go and you answer all of the questions. And the best part is you'll probably be able to consolidate a lot of these questions into categories. A lot of people will ask the same question a different way. So what you'll do is you'll extract all the questions, you'll kind of categorize them and consolidate them, and then you'll just answer them, and you'll just stay there as long as it takes, whether it's 45 minutes or 2 hours. You'll just answer all the questions, and you're essentially just solving the problems for the attendees. You're not trying to guess what you should be doing. You're not trying to build a presentation and hoping that it resonates with the audience. You're actually just extracting problems and bottlenecks from the audience in real time, and you're solving those problems in front of them and just reducing their bottlenecks and solving their problems. And it's way more valuable than just trying to assemble a whole laundry list of keynote speakers hoping that the information lands. It's much better just to figure out what the audience is struggling with and solve those problems for them. Very simple, very straight to the point, super easy. So that's all I have for this video. This was a very free form video. I literally was just I was thinking about this problem, this whole trend of implementation over information, where I'm writing the itinerary for one of our clients right now, and it just kind of sparked this idea to make a video on this trend that we're seeing in ways that you can make your events more implementation focused. So just to review, number one is simplify the event objective, focus on 1 to 3 core problems. Number 2 is less speakers. Number 3 is less content. Number 4 is activities focused on moving the needle. Number 5 is facilitated networking. Number 6 is laser coaching. And number 7 is in-depth Q&A sessions. Now, if you are a high ticket coach or consultant that's currently hosting events, but you're not seeing the results that you want, or you are a high ticket coach or consultant and you want to get into the events game, but you just don't know where to start, or it's a bit overwhelming, click the link down below. I'm going to link our free school community. Inside of that community, we have a ton of content, a ton of free resources. And we also do, at this point, I think we're doing monthly live calls where we're just jumping on and talking about events. You can also just ask any questions you have in that community about the events that you're hosting or the ones that you want to host. It's simply just a free community for coaches and consultants to gather and talk about events, learn about events, and connect with other people in the game that are also hosting live events. So make sure you click the link in the description. And also, if you found this video valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.